Hello and welcome to yet another Hello America's What's Cooking live chat here on LinkedIn Live, where we are to be found every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern. My name is Xenia Hola. I'm the Regional Director of ECA North America, and I'll be your host today. And I would like to thank everybody who has been following us over the past weeks or months. And thank you for joining us again, and encourage you to say hello in the chat. My colleague Monica is in the chat as well, and will be saying hello for you as well. And we will definitely also pulling those welcome messages and any questions you may have for our guest today into the stream. So without further ado, Debbie, you are our guest today. Get Debbie Roepe, our executive director from ISSVD, and Debbie is going to tell you what the acronym stands for. But we were just chatting before the show started, and you said you were on TV. Tell us a little bit more about yourself. Introduce yourself and as well as your organization.
That's not really fair. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. I was on TV when I was for my 4-year-old birthday party on the Freddie Freihofer show, which I believe was a network show. But so that was the extent of my TV career. But as far as what I do, I've been the executive director for the ISSVD, which stands for the International Society for the Study of Vulvovaginal Disease, which is a very, very niche scientific society, obviously. The way it came about was back in 1970, there were a bunch of gynecologists at a big gynecologic meeting, an international meeting, and they realized that a lot of the vulvar diseases had a lot of crossover between dermatology and oncology, and that a gynecologist was not properly trained to diagnose or treat all these issues. So they decided that it was time to form a multi-specialty professional society, and that's what they did. And at the time, there were 40 members, and they just kept having meetings. And the society grew. And the way I became the executive director was when my youngest child went to preschool, I gave up my teaching career and started working for a friend of mine in a medical practice that she was just opening. And she happened to be the Secretary General of the ISSVD. And so, of course, I ended up helping her with all the runnings of the society, and it started getting bigger and bigger. So I eventually quit being her office manager, and now I run the ISSVD full time. And since then, we've opened a North American chapter that runs meetings only in North America, in addition to all of our international meetings.
Thank you so much, Debbie. And I'm happy we can recreate some of that TV feeling you had when you were 4 years of age. And just a quick shout out to Lisa Myers. She's enjoying our Hello America series very much. Thank you so much, Lisa. And please, we do want to hear from you as well, because your association is also one of our association community members. I would love to have you on the show as well. So please feel free to drop us a note if you want to be on this end of the show. You mentioned something when you first started, that it's a very niche association. So I'm assuming your association is a little bit smaller sized, and you mentioned also the meetings, and they must have been quite a big revenue generator for you. How have you survived the past 2 years?
So actually, you're right. Our meetings basically bring in all of our revenue for us, because our membership being small and of course being international, we have to keep our prices low. So we don't bring in a lot of revenue from membership. We mostly brought it in from meetings. But I hate to be that Pollyanna here, but honestly, the pandemic kind of was fantastic for us, because it opened so many doors that a small society never had. We never had access to so many virtual options. And people were just, everyone was offering virtual options and finally at an affordable price. So when we had our Chicago meeting scheduled, it was about 6 months before um, the the pandemic started, and so well, it was 6 months after the pandemic was when the meeting was scheduled. So we had already collected most of our registrations, so we just kept our meeting fee the same, and nobody complained. So then we ran it again the following year, and we figured we're selling an educational product that's worth this amount of money, and people were buying it for that price. So we did not reduce our prices. We kept them the same. And now that said, the budget went up because we were now running, it didn't go up when we ran a straightly virtual meeting, but in Dublin, we're going to run a hybrid event. So of course the budget is now doubled because we have to do both. But with all those virtual opportunities, our membership grew. We've been able to start doing webinars. We hired a marketing team that was, I hope they're not listening, but a fourth of the price of what all the other quotes that we were getting. So we are finally able to have marketing. And so for us, it's actually opened a lot of doors, and we're thriving.
That is awesome to hear. So there was a silver lining to the pandemic for you.
We were lucky to be a part of that. Yes.
And you mentioned already some of those changes which happened for you with the pandemic, and some things you're doing new in this post-pandemic world. So are you still continuing with your virtual events besides adding that hybrid component to your meeting in Dublin?
We are. So our rotation typically is we do our international meeting one year, and then we do our North American meeting the opposite year. And that's the one that we had to make virtual. And then we did change our rotation policy. Luckily, the people at Trinity College were very good to us and let us move our Congress to the following year, as did the people in Chicago. So we were also worked with really good venues that worked with us just to change our dates. So,
and a really fun element about the Trinity College you mentioned as well while we were chatting before we went live.
Yeah, I was saying that we really like to use an academic venue because we are a scientific society. And as Senya mentioned, we're not a huge meeting. Pre-pandemic, we were getting up to about 700 people. So we chose Trinity College, and the only time that they could have our meeting and use their facilities was in the summer. And then they also offered us the option of using their dorm rooms for our attendees, which, having international attendees, we do have a lot of people that want affordable housing, as well as they have a really cool setup where you have 4 dorm rooms that share a kitchen and a living room. So it allows for a lot of, networking and community after the meeting. And we actually did that for our meeting at NYU as well. And people absolutely loved it, especially since we have a lot of academics. And so for them, they were like, hey, it's like going back to college again.
I would like to say hello also to Alain from Montreal. And he has a really great question, which speaks to your Dublin conference. With all that really good best practice you are having from your virtual environment, how do you feel about the influence of it to your live Congress?
Well, we were actually a little bit concerned that by offering it hybrid, everybody would opt to stay home, because it's just easier, it's cheaper. But we've got about 80% of our participants coming live and 20% virtual. Our society, again, is a very small society, and they're like family. They want to see each other. They spend a lot of time in the hallways and over lunch networking, so they get the value of a live meeting. But there are people that just can't come. And so for us, this opens the door for everybody to be able to attend. So, we kind of feel like we're getting the best of both worlds. And we have not seen it hurt our live Congress.
That's really great to hear. So actually through the pandemic, you have elevated your value add through your conference to
Yeah.
audiences. What were some of your biggest challenges internally as well as externally when it comes to organizing your meeting?
Well, I would say, I mean, again, we're a very small society and I am the only employee. I do have a part-time employee that mostly does our memberships and our accounting. So honestly, the workload is like tripled and everything goes so much faster. Now I'm basically planning 2 events in one. I can no longer just run a registration list. I've got to run, okay, who's coming live, who's coming virtual. So like the workload is just tripled. And my presenters are saying, why do I have to send in my presentation so early? And I'm like, because I'm the only one here to like get 200 presentations prepared for publication. So those have been the challenges. But
And would you say that from let's put the ECA hat on, from the supplier side, do you think this is somewhere a role the suppliers could play more to offer that support for those international association meetings which have a smaller size, in which have the lack of talent and resources, whether the venues and the destinations can change their role to be more in that supporting role?
Oh, most definitely. Like I said earlier, we've finally been able to hire a marketing team that have picked up, all of that part of things for me. And the virtual platform that we were already using pre-pandemic, luckily they were a small kind of startup company and they pivoted and made the virtual thing happen. And now I'm still using them and they have helped me so much with like the abstract submissions. They just have all those pieces in place for me and they've kind of helped me manage some of those pieces that my CRM doesn't do because again, we don't have a very robust CRM. And it all comes down to, cost. I can't use, I know the perfect thing is out there, but I can't afford it. So I have to try to find pieces that will work together because I can afford the pieces, you know.
Absolutely. And I think I hear that not only from the association perspective, but also from the supplier perspective. Loss of talent and lack of resources is a huge issue, which is also one of the reasons we are touching upon that during our North America Summit when in June, where we are tackling that issue. There's a great question from our audience, from Peter, and I think it was more to your live event happening in Dublin. Are you now focusing more on the socializing and networking aspect on the in-person event than pre-pandemic?
I won't say that we're focusing on it any more than we did, but we're definitely emphasizing, like I said, we didn't change our price. We charge the same for virtual attendance as we do live. So if you come live, you get all these social activities and the opportunity to network. And you're going to pay the same price if you don't take those things. So that's how we kind of emphasize the social, because like I said, we are already an extremely social group. And that's one of the main reasons people attend our meetings, is because we really do get the leading experts from around the world. And of course, everyone wants to meet them and be with them and pick their brain. So that's how we kind of tackled the whole, social thing. We tried to make it.
Say anything has really changed for the in-person experience in that respect, that you have added some extra value or content or networking opportunities?
No, because those were always very important to us. So okay. I don't, and I mean, we're one of those, we start at 8, we go till 5, and we have a meeting every night. And so there wasn't another minute to cram anything in.
I'm here. My internet is frozen, but I'm here. So because that was already important to you, you have added now this hybrid element. Have you changed something in your actual RFP bidding book or process?
To be honest, we have not updated our RFP for the following, for the next process yet, because we were kind of waiting to see how Dublin went, because like I said, we were a little worried that the hybrid experience would hurt us. And like you're saying, what do we need to do to make the live experience more valuable? But I think that we found that we already offer that value, and people are willing to. So really, the only thing that we've changed is our rotation. We're now on the opposite years that we were, and obviously our numbers are probably changing. Again, we wanted to wait and see what those numbers looked like, and stuff like that, but nothing major.
Okay. And do you have any tips for any other associations out there, especially with considering the lack of resources and funding, and it's always good to hear a good tip and trick on how to make the penny stretch further?
Well, as far as making the penny stretch further, I guess I've just been really fortunate to work with really good vendors that understand our situation and understand that it's a meaningful, purposeful society, and they work with us to make it affordable and to help us. As far as tips go, I think communication is obviously the key. And the problem, again, is that now there's so many different ways to communicate. You know, nobody picks up the phone anymore, so at least that one's off the table. Most people don't have a fax anymore, so that's off the table. But email and now WhatsApp, a lot of people want to communicate by text message or WhatsApp because they just don't do email anymore. So I was noticing that a lot of my emails were just like, I thought I handled something. I sent so-and-so an email. I'll wait till they reply. Well, guess what? They never replied. So I did finally go out and find a new email program that would allow me to flag an email that I send so that it comes back to me whenever I tell it to, so I can follow up and say, hey, did they ever answer me? And that's been really, really helpful. And I know most people probably already had it, but you know, for us, we just needed to update that.
And actually, to the question of communication, Alan is wondering, due to your great communication during the pandemic, are you expecting more abstract submissions for Dublin?
Well, actually, we've already accepted all of our abstracts, and we did actually have a fewer number than usual. But I think that's because of the pandemic, and we are a medical society, so our doctors were all being stretched thin, busy doing other things. Many of them were pulled out of their own practices to do COVID care. So I think the science definitely took a little bit of a hit. But we still got a very good number. I mean, we're not hurting in any way, but it was lower than it was pre-pandemic.
And before we get off our call and chat today, one last thing, because we are on a cooking show. Any favorite foods, restaurants, recipes?
Well, the one thing I love about my job is I get to do lots of international travel and meet lots of cool people. And when I do travel internationally, I like to pick up a cookbook. And I did find a really good one the last time that I was out, and it's called The World's Best Bowl Food. And the thing that I love about it is it tells you about the food, and then it tells you about the origin of the food. It gives you a little story about the origin, and then it tells you, you know, tasting notes, and it's just really, it's got more than just a recipe. So I enjoy this cookbook amongst all the others that I pick up when I go places.
That's a great tip. Thank you for sharing. And if we do go ahead with our idea from last week's chat, where we are collecting all those recipes, we'll also turn to you with the tip for the book. So you give us the exact title and everything, and we can share it with our audience. Thank you so much, Debbie, for being here today. For anybody watching, if you want more information on ISSVD, please visit their website, issvd.org, or get in touch with Debbie herself. I'm sure she will be happy to chat more. And anybody who would like to join us on one of the next live chats, please feel free to email me at xenia.p@ecoworld.org. And the final thing left for me to say is my next guest next week will be Rodney Sharples, who is a fellow RAM Council member, and he will be talking about the importance of inclusivity and diversity in the workforce. So please make sure to join us all. Thank you very much, and wishing you a wonderful day. Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you. Good to see you, Xenia.